and I want to thank the previous speakers, and great to see so many partners on here. So I'm part of CAIR California. We're a civil rights and advocacy organization. We serve some of the most vulnerable and hard to count populations throughout the state through our civil rights work and our immigrant rights centers throughout, whether it's the Bay Area, Sacramento, Fresno, Anaheim, and San Diego. So pre-COVID, we had our plans finalized, direct outreach, mosques, churches, ethnic grocery stores. Then COVID hit. Luckily for us, CAIR was the last statewide CBO to come on to join the campaign. And so we didn't announce which organizations were getting funding. So this allowed us to adjust our plans and move funds more equitably. We had to take everything into consideration, including which organizations received funds through the regional ACBOs, and then also where were the gaps? Did we cover the minority groups within the MENA community? So now we have 80 partners, and we're about to launch some major campaigns very soon. And one of the key pivots was from the houses of worship, which we did. We're still including some houses of worship, but we're only including the ones that have the newsletters, the membership, the databases where they can phone bank their members. They can, or ones that do service where they give out food. They have a food bank. They have a pantry. So the major pivot was to the ones that were actually doing this work. And I'll just tell you about an amazing effort that happened in Sacramento a few weeks ago, right before Ramadan. About 10 organizations came together and had probably the largest drive nationally. I haven't seen anything like this in the Middle Eastern and Muslim community, where over 2,000 families came from. We chose one of the large mosques in South Sacramento, and we had over 2,000 families show up in cars to pick up boxes of essential goods. And then what we did is we just put all the materials we put materials in the boxes. But for census, we put the unemployment and all that information in the boxes. But for census, we decided not to, and instead engage every single car. So we would pass out flyers that were translated. We would talk to them. We would explain to them why it's important for them to fill out the census. And for many of them, and I would say that day, it was about 80% Afghan. And these are the recent refugees that have come and settled in this region. And so this is their first census. So we had to explain to them and what this means to them and their families. And so that was, just a really an amazing day. And we were all excited because finally we got to do some direct outreach during the COVID crisis, and law enforcement was there to support. I mean, it was just so many groups that came together to support that population. Another way is phone banking. So, but when phone banking, a lot of folks, we've been doing phone banking since last year, through different programs to try to get folks to just be aware of census. But what lists were we phone banking? So we had to take a step back during the COVID time and see how can we reach out to communities that are not on PDI and other lists. How do we get data to be able to phone bank a much wider network? So this is something that I learned, being an elected official and running campaigns. I learned how to run lists through surnames. So you get surnames of specific populations, and you run them through databases, and then you get those numbers and names, and you plug them into specific lists. So for example, Armenian list. I know PDI has an Armenian list, but we were able to get surnames over 10,000 Armenian surnames and run them through 35 million records in California, and to be able to pull a Armenian list, Armenian universe in PDI. Then we did that for the Iranian community. We did it for the Arab community. And then we're partnering with some churches. So what we did is we got Arab Christian surnames, and we're running through that list so we can give the churches a list of Arab Christians throughout California. We try to break it down to the minority groups. Now, some of them, of course, there's going to be overlap, right? Whether they're Assyrian or Chaldean, of course, it all depends on which countries they lived in. So the last names could fall into different categories. So now we have this major data set, and we're about to launch a predictive dialing system, because that's probably the most efficient way to reach as many folks. So if you hit a line and no one picks up, it automatically leaves a message, a pre-recorded message. And then by using predictive dialing system, you're more likely to get a live person. So you have someone with a clicker that will release lines to phone bankers throughout California. And then also, I'll end with this. online ads through geofencing and social media. So, for example, if someone searches something in Armenian on YouTube, right, something in Armenian, the Armenian language, they'll get a video in Armenian. If they search something to do with Armenia, the Armenian community in English, then we know they speak English. So we're hitting them with, an ad by Enka, the High Count campaign, in English. So we're going down to find details to try to see how do we get these hard to count populations through different social media platforms, the keywords. So we've been kind of analyzing, studying that for quite some time, and these campaigns are about to roll out to be able to reach these hard to count populations.